Is he lying to you? That question might sound harsh, but for many women over 60, it's one that lingers beneath quiet dinners, casual phone calls, and unexpected silences. Trust isn't just a feeling, it's a lifeline, and when that trust is shaken, it can feel like the ground beneath your feet is shifting. Hi, it's Vernon again. Today, I'm going to tell you 5 signs that show a man might be lying to you. Before making this video, I thought long and hard, because, truth be told, we men don't exactly want women to know these things. But trust me, once you see these signs, you'll never unsee them. If you're tired of second guessing, if you've ever felt something wasn't quite right but couldn't put your finger on it, then this video is for you. Before we dive into these 5 signs, I have a small favor to ask. If this topic resonates with you, if you believe in empowering yourself with truth and clarity, then please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to my channel. It might seem like a small action, but to me it's a sign that what I'm doing matters, and it's your way of telling me, Vernon, keep going. Let's begin this journey with eyes wide open and hearts grounded in wisdom. Number 1. He avoids giving specific details. Have you ever asked a man a simple question, and instead of a clear answer, he gave you something vague and slippery? Something like, "Oh, I was just out," instead of, "I went to Jim's house and then grabbed coffee downtown." That kind of answer might seem harmless, but when it keeps happening, it's not harmless at all. It's a warning. Avoiding details is a tactic, intentional or not. It creates space where accountability should live. According to Dr. Paul Ekman, a leader in deception research, people who lie often use vague language to avoid being pinned down. They know the more detail they give, the easier it is for inconsistencies to show. I've seen this firsthand, not from someone else's story, but from my own life. Years ago, my marriage was falling apart. My wife Susan started asking me things like, "Where were you this afternoon?" And I'd say, "Just out handling things." The truth, I didn't want to be specific. Not because I was doing anything terrible, but because I was emotionally elsewhere, and I didn't want to face that. So I stayed vague. That vagueness turned into distance. That distance became silence. And eventually, that silence cost us everything. It taught me something. When someone consistently avoids specific answers, they're often hiding more than just their whereabouts. They might be hiding guilt, disinterest, or a shifting emotional bond. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If a man wants to be honest, he won't hide behind smoke. He'll meet your questions with respect. If this struck a chord with you, perhaps you've lived through something similar. Feel free to share, not for sympathy, but because your experience might quietly guide someone else who's still trying to make sense of theirs. The next sign? It doesn't hide in sentences. It hides in silence, in the way your stomach knots for no clear reason, in the way you question yourself after every conversation. This one isn't about what he says, it's about how he makes you feel when nothing is being said at all. Let's move forward. Number 2. You feel like you're always the one apologizing. When dishonesty becomes a pattern in a relationship, it rarely stays confined to words. It seeps into the emotional atmosphere, shifting blame, bending truth, and twisting your natural instincts into self-doubt. One of the clearest red flags? You start to feel like you're the one who's always in the wrong. This isn't about conflict resolution. It's about emotional imbalance. A man who lies often subtly reshapes the narrative so that you carry the emotional weight. He forgets your birthday, and suddenly, you're apologizing for being upset. He becomes distant, and somehow it's your fault for being too sensitive. This is what modern psychologists identify as gaslighting, a manipulative tactic designed to make someone question their reality. But it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it sounds like, "You're imagining things," or "You always take things the wrong way." These phrases might seem harmless, but over time, they chip away at your sense of truth. And here's the deeper danger. When you begin apologizing for your intuition, you're no longer in touch with your own emotional compass. You start silencing yourself, second-guessing your instincts, and minimizing your needs to keep the peace. Let's be clear. Taking responsibility in a relationship is vital. But if you find yourself apologizing not for mistakes, but for feelings, that's not accountability. That's control. The Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu wrote, "He who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still." A relationship based on truth doesn't require emotional gymnastics. It allows space for honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. So ask yourself, are you constantly making amends for simply wanting honesty, connection, or clarity? If so, the issue may not be your delivery. It may be his integrity. Up next is a behavior so subtle it often slips by unnoticed, until one day, it doesn't. Once you've seen it for what it truly is, it changes the way you understand everything that came before. Number 3. His street orgies are a little too perfect. I'll admit something from a man's perspective. We often believe that if we can just make our story sound polished enough, we'll avoid trouble. It's not always with malicious intent. Sometimes it's fear, pride, or the belief that the truth won't be accepted as it is. So we clean up the story. We rehearse it in our heads. We trim away the awkward bits. And what comes out is something that sounds just a little too perfect. At first, that smooth delivery can feel reassuring. But the truth? It might be crafted to convince, not to connect. When the pauses vanish, the hesitations disappear, and every detail is too precise, that's when you should start listening between the lines. Liars often construct narratives that are clean and flawless. Why? Because the truth is usually messy. Real stories have pauses, contradictions, even second thoughts. But when someone is lying, they tend to rehearse their version in advance. They remove the bumps, smooth out the edges, and deliver something that sounds just a little too right. This is known in psychology as overcompensation bias. When someone fears being caught, they subconsciously overcorrect. They eliminate hesitation, structure timelines too precisely, or offer information you didn't even ask for, all in the hope that you'll see their confidence and assume honesty. But here's the key. Truth lives in nuance, not perfection. When a story lacks natural rhythm, when there's no pause to think, no slip of memory, no genuine reflection, it could be a sign you're not hearing a memory. You're hearing a script. It's a subtle form of control. When a man gives you a perfect version of events, he's not giving you space to question, he's preempting your doubt. And over time, that trains you to override your instincts. The philosopher Alan Watts once said, "The truth is always discovered, never manufactured." If someone is offering you a version of reality that feels too well produced, it's worth asking yourself, does it feel real, or does it feel rehearsed? Sometimes, noticing what isn't wrong, what's too right, is the most powerful form of discernment you'll ever have. And if these insights have helped you pause, even for a moment, consider tapping that like button. It's a quiet way of saying, "Yes, Vernon, this matters. And I actually appreciate that more than you know." Let's not be fooled by consistency alone, because sometimes a man's true self only appears the moment he's caught off guard. It's easy to be kind when things are smooth, but how he reacts when confronted, that's where truth often lives in plain sight. What we'll explore next might just shift how you interpret not only his words, but the spaces between them. Number 4. He only changes when he's been caught. Change is a powerful thing, but only when it's rooted in honesty. One of the clearest signs a man might be lying is when his behavior only improves after you confront him. He gets more attentive, more loving, more present, but not because he saw the problem. He's reacting to being exposed. This kind of change isn't growth. It's self-preservation. It's a performance meant to reset the clock, to make you doubt your instincts, and to buy time before old patterns return. And that cycle, confrontation, apology, short-term improvement, then decline, is exhausting. I say this not as a judgment, but as a man who's been on both sides of that moment. Years ago, after a major argument with Susan, my ex-wife, I suddenly became the ideal husband. I remembered anniversaries. I brought flowers home. I even offered to cook. But if I'm honest with myself, those changes weren't born from genuine understanding. They came from fear of losing control, fear of losing her trust. I was trying to fix the perception, not the root. It took me a long time to admit that, and deep down most women can feel the difference. One comes with humility, the other with panic. True transformation doesn't need a spotlight. It shows up quietly, in consistency, even when no one's watching. A man who lies will often wait until you notice, then try to dazzle you with correction. But ask yourself, why didn't the change come sooner? Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And over time, I've come to see just how painfully true that is. Real change isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with grand promises or dramatic gestures. It shows itself quietly, in the decisions we make when no one is watching, in the patience we offer when there's nothing to gain, in the way we begin to hold ourselves accountable long before anyone else does. If a man says he's changed, the question isn't what he says next. It's what he does after the apology fades. So pay attention to the timing of his kindness. Is it spontaneous? Or does it always follow your disappointment? Because love isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about growing without needing to be caught. And sometimes the clearest truths are found not in grand gestures, but in what comes next, unprompted. That brings us to our final sign. Number 5. Your gut knows, but he makes you doubt it. There's something ancient inside us, call it intuition, instinct, or just life-earned wisdom, that often whispers long before our minds can catch up. And yet, when you're with someone who lies well, that voice gets quieter, not because it's wrong, but because he slowly teaches you not to trust it. This is the most dangerous sign of all. Not just that he lies, but that his lies make you question your own inner knowing. I've learned, sometimes too late, that the gut doesn't shout. It doesn't give you evidence. It gives you feeling, a heaviness in the chest, an unease you can't explain. A lingering thought at night when all else is quiet. When a man consistently lies, that feeling doesn't go away. Instead, he learns to manipulate around it. He'll tell you you're being paranoid. He'll say you're reading too much into things. He'll frame your sensitivity as the issue, not his behavior. And before long, that inner compass you've spent decades developing starts to feel broken. But here's the truth. It's not broken. It's been drowned out by a narrative designed to keep you uncertain. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is." When we begin to silence our intuition, to protect the idea of a person, we stop protecting ourselves. So ask yourself, when you're with him, do you feel peace? Or do you feel like you're always managing, adjusting, shrinking, explaining away what your heart already knows? Sometimes the most honest conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself, in the quiet, before dawn, when no one else is watching. It's like standing at the edge of a lake just before sunrise. The water is still, the world is hushed, and for a brief moment, everything reflects back at you with piercing clarity. Your doubts, your knowing, your truth. But imagine someone beside you throwing stones, small, constant ripples distorting that reflection. That's what emotional manipulation does to your intuition. Not by force, but by disruption. It makes you stop trusting what you see in the stillness. So, when you're with him, ask yourself, do I feel like calm water, or like I'm constantly recovering from the ripple? The gut doesn't need proof. It only needs you to listen. Conclusion: when stillness becomes strength. If you've made it here, it means you're not just curious, you're courageous. Because the truth is, these signs aren't just about him. They're about you, about reclaiming the space within yourself where clarity lives. And perhaps most importantly, where self-trust begins again. These 5 signs aren't a checklist for judgment. They're a lens, a way to see patterns more clearly, so you can stand more firmly in your own knowing. Because wisdom doesn't always come wrapped in closure. Sometimes, it arrives as a quiet realization. I've seen this before, and this time, I choose differently. Relationships are not built on perfection, but they should be built on truth. And if a man can't offer that, no matter how charming or consistent he seems, then you deserve to protect your peace more than his performance. So if something in you stirred today, if a sentence, or a memory, or a feeling asked you to pause, honor that. Take a moment, reflect, maybe even journal. And if you feel this video gave you something valuable, don't forget to left a comment, gave it a like, or shared it with someone who might need it. It's a small gesture, but it lets me know these words are reaching the hearts they were meant for. You've carried more wisdom than you realize. Sometimes, all we need is a quiet nudge to remember it. Until next time, take care of your heart and trust the stillness it's trying to protect. And I'm Vernon, thanks for watching my video.